If you ever had the opportunity to come and see school breakfast provision and visit one of the schools, I think, you would look at it and think, I want to be part of this as well.
Thinking about nervous system regulation, that breakfast in community can really help that, so that children aren't coming in, up here, which you might be if you don't have that space.
Influencing policy and creating partnerships and influencing other spaces, it is really quite magical. Like it's not just the provision of food, it's what you're doing is so much bigger.
How do we create an environment so that young people can thrive and have the best opportunity to go and make a life for themselves? But it just makes sense, and there needs to be more of it.
So the longer term plan is that Magic Breakfast doesn't exist. In an ideal world, we're in a place where there is no need for us to be champion change, because change has already happened, right? So we want to work ourselves out of the job, right? That's the long term.
And that's the end of the podcast, everyone. So if you'd like to follow us.
Hello and welcome back to the Social Matters podcast. We are 3 social workers talking about social matters. Hi, my name's Nadia.
Hi, I'm Fran.
Hi, and I'm Eugene.
And today we are joined by a 4th person in the studio.
Hello.
Ben! Welcome, Ben. Welcome. How you doing? How has your day been going so far?
I'm all right, yeah. It's been nice. Been out for lunch. So, good day so far. Looking forward to this.
Good.
What did you have for lunch?
I was going to ask that. This is important
we all
podcast
love
question.
food.
I had a goat's cheese salad with avocado, walnuts, and like when you're out, you think I'm going to have something that I don't usually have. I wouldn't make this at home, so treated myself a bit.
I love that.
Nice.
Love
Was that in London town?
Just around the corner, yeah.
Oh.
You know what? I feel like there's a salad season coming, because you two ordered the salad the other day because of the sunshine. I think the sunshine then leads to salad.
Yeah.
And that's the end of the podcast, everyone. So if you'd like to follow us, this is the new avocado and goat cheese salad podcast.
I love goat's cheese. Love a bit of goat's
I know.
cheese. But thank you, Ben. Welcome. So we're gonna have a chat about you and some of the work that you're doing. But just to kind of start us off, could you say a little bit about yourself? Say a little bit about Magic Breakfast.
Yeah.
Kind of what your role is in the organisation, and what Magic Breakfast is all about.
Yeah, absolutely. So Magic Breakfast is a charity. We're UK wide, and we run school breakfast provision in around 1,000 schools in England and Scotland. And we also campaign for change. So we do a lot of work on kind of campaigning, advocating for the benefits of school breakfast and how it can kind of support and impact children and young people. And we campaign for universal school breakfasts across the UK. My role is Head of Impact and Innovation. So I kind of look after the research and the evidence and the evaluation, the social impact side of things, and also the innovation, which is really exciting. So for me, I see it as a kind of the full loop. So we can produce the research that kind of helps us to understand what are the problems, what are the issues that we're facing across the sector. And then we have the innovation, so we can innovate, we can trial things and see whether or not they work, and then we can evaluate, and that tells us whether or not they're working and how well they're working and so on. And then we get the opportunity to kind of, do we want to advocate for this wider, or do we want to implement this across the Magic Breakfast model? Do we want to run something at scale? So really kind of sitting behind the evidence and insights is my role, and the role of the team, I should say. It's not all done by me.
I did it.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Thank you. I love your sort of passion that comes through when you're we get to do this, we get to try this out. Oh, thank you so much. It sounds so important, what it is that you're doing. So yeah.
Yeah, and also because as social workers, and we've been working in social work since.
I feel like you're going to say the same point as me, though, as well.
What's your point?
About Action Reese?
No, I wasn't going to say that.
All right. I'm trying to say we're so in line with each other. No, I wasn't saying that.
No.
Many years. I've been about 60 years between us.
Yeah. But
I've got 50. Bad.
But since the mid 2000s, and also for me, coming from working class background, free school meals and stuff like that, but also in the time that I was working as a social worker, I never heard of any kind of initiative like Magic Breakfast. So when you guys got in touch, and just hearing you talk about the research, evaluation and impact, I'm very kind of looking forward to hearing more, but not just on a podcast, but more widely. And a lot of our audience are social workers, so I think this would very much resonate with people.
And I think for us as well, you know, as you say, maybe breakfast is a kind of newer thing in schools compared to lunch. People are aware of free school lunch, but for us it isn't a kind of either or. It's more about like the importance of nutritious school food, and it's a breakfast and lunch. You know, we want investment in both, and we think that they can really kind of support and impact children, young people, if you have healthy nutritious food every day and you're getting breakfast and lunch.
Love it.
How long have you been going, the charity?
So Magic Breakfast Charity has been going about 20 years or so. So loads of kind of history and sort of evidence for an experience for us to draw upon. And I think it's more recently that we've kind of been investing more time into like advocating for that systemic change. But certainly that history of providing school breakfast and learning and adapting, a good 20 years worth of history behind us.
Brilliant.
I was going to say that I thought you were just going to say, but it wasn't. But like we used to teach on a social work masters, and one of the things they did was this action research, was very much that insider. So it's something we're familiar with, but also the power of that, of like, researching what you're doing, getting that feedback, implementing, and such an innovative way to work. So I guess just a bit of a personal question in terms of what drew you personally to Magic Breakfast, but then also I suppose, as you said, like part of your role is advocating for that systemic change. What keeps you going and motivated when we know it's a kind of structural systemic issue or challenge? Okay, so what drew me, I guess, I think education is fundamentally important. And, you know, I used to work at a university, and then I was working at a not-for-profit organisation who was supporting education. And for me, like, really saw the effects of good education for children, young people. And I guess kind of similar to what you were saying earlier, Eugene, like, I'm from working class background, and for me that opportunity to, you know, go to university and build a career for myself has been so important for me. So kind of really believing in good education. And I think we see inequity across the system, depending on perhaps where you live in the country, or depending on your background, or, you know, your cultural heritage. And, you know, I don't think that's right. And so kind of making sure that people have got the opportunity to thrive and succeed is really important. And I think one thing that drew me particularly to Magic Breakfast is, you know, the fact that we kind of do both of those things in, like, we're campaigning and advocating for that long-term systemic change, but we're also doing, like, you know, you put your money where your mouth is. Like, we're out there doing it. Like, we're out there actually running that school breakfast provision and supporting the schools and working with the children, young people and the families. So it's not just a case of, like, you know, we're in some ivory tower producing some research saying, like, you know, there should be systemic change. Like, we're out there doing it as well. So having both of those things just, really drew me to it. And I think if you ever had the opportunity to come and see school breakfast provision and visit one of the schools, I think, you would look at it and think, I want to be part of this as well.
I love that. That's so powerful, because I don't want to be all like doom and gloom about the state of the world, but the way that I think the world has gone in the last, like, few decades around, maybe it's always been like that, but maybe I felt it more because it's been my adult years, but moving towards an individualistic kind of, like, lens, and people having individual personal responsibility. So when you're in a situation because you haven't worked hard enough, or because of X, Y, and Z. So I think the idea of anything that is community focused, or thinking about how do we create an environment so that young people can thrive and have the best opportunity to go and make a life for themselves. I'm preaching to the converted, but it just makes sense, and there needs to be more of it. So the idea of just giving people something to eat in order so that they can bring their best to education is so important. These two know what I'm like if I have had a coffee in the morning. So I say that, I'm just picking up. I'm all right. I'm a tough crowd. Okay.
I think as well, like, there's the food element of it, which, as you say, is really important. But actually, there's so much more to it than the food. And, you know, I think to myself, like, imagine if you had,
half an hour before you started work, and you got to hang out with your friends, and you got to have a coffee, and you got to have something to eat. Maybe you were playing a game, maybe you're talking about last night's football match, whatever, and you just have that like soft kind of relaxing start to the day, so that when you do start work, you feel ready to do that. And I think maybe what's happening is that we're seeing, there's so much kind of rush, so much pressure, and kind of so many challenges that are faced by families now, that actually, I know what it's like for me just doing the school run. It's like, right, come on, get up, go in the shower, have some breakfast, blah, blah, blah. And then you go, and then before you know it, it's like you're in school, and then I need to go and get back to my desk, and you just like bang, bang, bang. And I just think having that space to like connect with your friends and feel like you belong as well is so important. So it's the food, but more than the food as well.
Love that. You just hit one of the Social Matters bingo words on the podcast. Belong.
Yeah.
We talk about that all the time.
Look forward to my Full House prize.
You still got a board to fill out.
So you get a line or a full house.
let's see if you do that. So we know that you carried out some research called Root Causes for Child Morning Hunger, which was published on the 9th of March this year, 2026. Can you tell us a bit more about that research and some of what it kind of found?
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned before about kind of that, systemic change, and to really change the system, I think you need to understand the system. And I think when we started this piece of research, looking at those root causes of child morning hunger, and trying to kind of unpick what are the reasons that children are turning up to school hungry, not having had breakfast. And what we found is just like, whoa, this web of like interconnected issues, and, some more prevalent than others, and some depending on the challenges that you experience in your family or your household, some depending on, perhaps where you live in the country, and some are kind of national challenges that we're all facing. And it was like, how do you make sense of this, right? So part of what we've done with the research is tried to make sense of that really complex web of interconnected issues by saying, okay, which ones are existing at more of like a kind of national systemic level, which ones are driven by perhaps policy or economic challenges, and then which ones are happening at more of a kind of local community level or like organizational. So what are the challenges that the schools are facing or the local communities are facing? And then thinking, what else is happening? What's happening within the family, within the household that faces children, young people? And so, perhaps to give you some examples to kind of put it into practice, like at a national level, things like cost of living and inflation, and we see increases in like petrol prices, which again squeezes your budget. And so maybe that affects your food budget as well. Maybe kind of at a local level, you see some of the challenges around like local transport. So if you're living in more of a rural community, and then actually you need to go and get the bus much earlier than other people who are living in urban community, because, to get to school on time, you've got to get up at 5:30 in the morning, get the bus at 6:30. And so by the time you get to school, like you're feeling hungry, you're not feeling ready to learn. And then also kind of within the household, within the family, there's some challenges, perhaps young carers with additional responsibilities in the home, perhaps neurodiversity or special educational needs, disabilities, food intolerances or allergies. So there's so many things that are kind of happening within the individual household as well. And so for us to try and make sense of it, we tried to put it into this framework at that kind of national level, that local level, and that individual level. And then the next question is, well, what do we do about it? Like, what is our response to that? And I think as Magic Breakfast, we recognize that we're a charity. We've got finite resources. We can't solve all the problems as much as we want to. But there's certain things that, we should recognize that are kind of leading to this child morning hunger. And so we can do our bit to kind of alleviate the symptom of it, which is the hunger. You can give people the food on the morning, but how do you then address the root causes? And perhaps, let's take the transport as an example. Well, is it Magic Breakfast's role then to start advocating for better transport in rural communities? And I would say no, it isn't. But there's other organizations out there who are already doing that work. So how can we partner with them? How can we share evidence? How can we recognize that actually, you know, your problem is our problem as well, and you're doing fantastic work and we want to support you, but, you know, we know our own kind of space as well. We know what our sort of sphere of control is, really. So it's about how we respond to those challenges as well.
Yeah, I love that. And yeah, I like that idea of like working almost cross agency and supporting each other, because the people who are focused on improving the transport, do they know about the impact of improvement in timetable, for example,
Exactly.
on a whole bunch of children arriving to school on time or having more time at home to have breakfast or feel fueled or whatever. So yeah, I love that. It's insightful, opening my eyes to a lot of stuff I didn't know. But
No, sorry, I was just going to say, and I think, like, you know, sometimes that's the thing. Maybe when you think about school breakfast, maybe you already have those kind of preconceptions of like, oh, well, you know, maybe these are the families that need it, and you're thinking about a free school meals, like a means tested model or something. And you know, maybe people aren't aware of like all the challenges that you know people can face that cause that child morning hunger. So kind of shining a light on those things is really important for us.
Yeah, I was just thinking it's a very like systemic way of looking at the kind of challenges rather than individualizing the kind of the family or the child, like they're the problem and, you know, they need this, because I think, as you said, there's so many factors, isn't there, influencing it.
Yeah, I was going to say pretty much the same thing, that the importance of taking that kind of systemic lens to kind of, think about how to support young people and children is so important. I was also thinking about the name Magic Breakfast and how there's something, you know, mystical and magical about what you're doing, because we're focusing on breakfast, but actually, like you said, it's not just we're just giving somebody food. We're thinking about the process of that, what it's like to be in kind of community before you start school, you know, the impact of that, and as well as looking at the kind of widening the lens of systemic lens and influencing policy and creating partnerships and, you know, influencing other spaces. It is really quite magical. Like it's not just the provision of food. It's what you're doing is so much bigger. It's really really impressive.
We've got a commitment in our new strategy. So we published our new strategy, 15-year strategy, and we published that about 6 months ago. And one of the commitments is working with young people to allow them to define the magic of breakfast. And, you know, that is all of that stuff. So we see it through an adult lens. We see it through our experiences, you know, and actually what we need to do is empower the children and young people to say, this is what we want, this is what we value, this is what we benefit from, so that we can really kind of bring their voices to the front and center, and it allows us to advocate for the change that they want, you know, not just looking at that through the adult lens. And that's what we call the magic of breakfast.
I love it. And it also resonates. We do a lot and think a lot about kind of trauma-informed approaches, and I think it's very aligned with that, which is a lot around trust, safety, collaboration, because again, thinking about nervous system regulation, that breakfast and community can really help that, so that children aren't coming in, you know, up here, which you might be if you don't have that space. That links to us as adults, doesn't it? You know, when you describe that, like if I've had longer time to get out of the house, I'm in a better space, and if I'm like, you know, so it's really aligns with a lot of the lenses through which we think about as well.
Definitely.
What is the age range? You said schools. Is it just primary schools or secondary schools, or?
So work across primaries and secondary schools.
Great.
So mainstream schools, primary and secondary. We work with special educational needs schools, working all through schools. We work with pupil referral units as well. Brilliant. And I think the brilliant thing, particularly for my role working in impact, is seeing the kind of different types of impacts that come through, and the impacts that perhaps you see in a primary school, and maybe you're thinking about, like, you know, concentration and behavior and emotional regulation, and that leads to kind of better educational outcomes and so on. And maybe that's different to what we see in a school that's special educational needs, and it's about, you know, independence and learning to, you know, make breakfast yourself, and learning to make yourself a cup of tea, and, you know, so yeah, it's so good working across all of the different schools and seeing that impact.
Brilliant. Love that.
I think, you know, we're kind of hearing about sort of breakfast and lunch as well being provided for all, not just kind of specific groups. And and yeah, you've got a real sort of passion to get that delivered without necessarily thinking about stigmas or, you know, it being attached to, you know, or, you know, just a certain group of people are getting this. How do you manage that? How do you achieve that in a school setting? How does that work?
So, I mean, fundamentally, it's core to the model that it has to be, you know, freely available to everyone. It's universally available, and that's one of the things that helps to reduce that stigma. You know, it's not just certain groups, as you say, that can access the provision. Is every child, and we've got a network of engagement partners who work up and down the country, supporting schools with guidance and training and resources and. You know, working with the schools. I mean, the schools, you know, they're going to know their communities better than we ever can, right? And so how do you work with the school to make sure that the provision that you're implementing is addressing the needs of that community as well? And so, you know, bringing their voice into it, but using the experience of our engagement partners to make sure that we're delivering a provision that is stigma-free and barrier-free. And also having kind of multiple types of models. So, you know, maybe you think about the sort of traditional breakfast club and you go in, you can play a game, you can have something sweet with your friends, which is great, but not everybody can access a breakfast club as well. So we have grab and go provision, which is where, you know, you can come in, you can grab something as you go in, maybe you come in 5 minutes before the bell and you can just grab some food as you head into classroom. We have late provision as well. So for those children, young people that are perhaps arriving after the bell for whatever reason, there's still food available to them. So, you know, making sure that there's different types of provision that's accessible for everyone to kind of create that equity as well, to really sort of reduce the barriers.
Love that.
Thank you.
So we're hearing about the brilliant work. There's so much you're doing, I guess, in terms of the actual practical provision of breakfast, but also the research. And another big bit, as you said, is that kind of advocating for policy change and really kind of thinking about school meal provision for kind of everyone and breakfast provision. How near do you think? I say we, as though I'm part of breakfast. How near are we?
You're part
How
of it.
near are you to kind of achieving that and the kind of work that you do at Magic Breakfast?
It's closer than we think. I'd say, you know, in England and Scotland, we've seen the commitments to universal provision for primary age young people. That's already been rolled out. And we expect that to be, you know, continue to roll out over the next kind of 18 months, 2 years or so and beyond. You know, going beyond that, there's opportunities to support at secondary. I think what we recognise is that hunger doesn't end at age 11. And, you know, imagine if you're in primary school and you're getting your breakfast every day and then suddenly you go to secondary school and it's not there anymore. So there's an opportunity to, you know, continue to advocate for that universal provision at secondary. And then, you know, kind of longer term, you know, maybe there's opportunity within early years, you know, as well. But I don't think it's a cut and paste job. I don't think it's you know, this is what works in primary school, so you can go and implement that at early years. I think there's more research and evidence that's required in that space. But yeah, how close is it? I would say it's happening now. And the case is, you know, how do we continue that commitment to exist? I think the will is there. I think the evidence is there, particularly for primary and secondary age young people. But it's about that commitment. How do we make sure that commitment continues?
Yeah, I love the optimism and the belief that you are closer than you think. And I was just thinking about, like, what are the potential barriers or obstacles to you achieving as an organisation, as a charity, what you want to achieve, and how can, I say, people, individuals or organisations or institutions support as well?
Yeah, I think, you know, we have a plan for the next 15 years at least. And, you know, the longer term plan is that Magic Breakfast doesn't exist, right? In an ideal world, you know, we're in a place where there is no need for us to be champion change because change has already happened, right? So we want to work ourselves out of the job, right? That's the long term. But yeah, we have a plan for at least the next 15 years. And as I say, that's kind of central to that is empowering the children, young people to have the voice to help shape what the future of breakfast provision looks like. So we can advocate for it, but, you know, we need their voice in there to tell us, what's best for them, what's most impactful for them. In terms of the barriers to that happening, I think we have to recognise that there's financial limitations within government at the moment. There's constraints to how much money the government can spend, and we have to recognise that really needs to be driven by evidence. So making sure that we're providing the evidence that can help government make that commitment, and really seeing school food and in our case particularly breakfast as an investment. We see it as a human capital investment, and whilst it costs money to implement programs like this, it's an investment for the future, because if we end up with a generation of children, young people with better health, better well-being, better educational outcomes, and then that is going to be beneficial for the whole country, right? So it's an investment. So even though you're having to spend the money now, it's an investment for our future. And I think, recognizing that if we can get the evidence, that's what will allow the commitment longer term.
Yeah. Love that. Thank you.
Well, I was thinking about, you're a charity that is works across England and Scotland, but how widespread are you, and how many schools are you in? How can people, if they wanted to get you in a school, access you? How might people be able to do that?
So yeah, we have provision across schools in England and Scotland, but we work UK wide. Mm-hmm. So it's thinking about kind of what are the next steps in Wales for advocacy, what are the next steps in Northern Ireland as well. But at the moment, the schools that we work in are just in England and Scotland. It's around 1,000 schools. So supporting and kind of impacting around 350,000 children, young people every morning, which is a huge number. It's definitely not me that does that. It's a whole team of people out there that are doing that work. I just get to count the numbers.
Amazing work.
And how can people kind of get involved? I think, get in touch with us. You can go on the website, magicbreakfast.com, and get in touch with us. We'd love to work with people across the sector. We'd love to work with schools. We'd love to get more of that school voice and, parent and carer voice and children's voice in there to help kind of shape what we do. So, if you want to work with us, then please get in touch.
Yeah.
Love that. Yeah.
For sure. And I imagine there's fundraising opportunities as well, people to kind of support and donate, because you are a charity. So I imagine
running the London Marathon.
I was thinking that.
We'll come out of our marathon retirement for this.
For Magic Breakfast.
You're going to need a hell of a breakfast on the
marathon. I was never in marathon, so I can't come out of marathon retirement, but I can hold up a sign. Go team, go Magic Breakfast. We're kind of at the end of the podcast. It's been so we invite people on to kind of talk about important topics as well. But when I'm in this seat, I feel like I am being educated and eyes open to just the great work that you're doing. And when I say you individually, but also the whole team, as you stated before. But it's just really powerful to kind of know that there are organisations and charities like yourself who are really making a significant difference. When you said 350,000 children, that is huge.
Every morning.
Yeah. That is massive. And credit to you all. But the final question, and you've touched on it a little bit, but I'll ask it anyway, is that if we were to kind of think about 5 or 10 years in the future for you as Magic Breakfast as an organisation, what does success look like, or what would you like success to look like?
Yeah, so as I say, kind of longer term, success is us not being here anymore, and you created that change in the system, but recognizing that change in the system takes a long time, right? So we have the kind of the steps on that journey, and for us, I think success is that you've got universal provision being rolled out, at least across England and Scotland. And, that's being done in an equitable way, and it's supporting all children, young people. And I think part of our role in that is to ensure that we are acting as a critical friend for government. And, we are centering that children, young people's voice to make sure that the policies that are being rolled out are driven by the needs and the voices of children, young people. So yeah, I think for us over the next 5 to 10 years, if we were moving into seeing signs of like secondary provision being rolled out, as I say, perhaps there's growing evidence on early years, that would be brilliant, but really making sure that is meeting the needs of children, young people, and that's part of our role. I don't think our role is to be the ones who are running breakfast in every school up and down the country. You know, we're a charity, we've got finite resources, and I don't think that's necessarily the solution. The solution is that systemic change, and it's how do we make that happen.
Yeah,
love that. Thank you, Ben. Thank you so much for coming down and chatting to us. You mentioned the website. Would you just want to kind of repeat that, and also if there's any other places where people can kind of find out a little bit more, or ways they might be able to get involved or help at all?
Yeah, absolutely. So magicbreakfast.com is the website. We're on all the socials as well, so there's the Instagram and LinkedIn and so on. And please, if you want to get in touch, do get in touch.
Great. And we'll leave it in the show notes. Also, systemic change is another bingo word.
How close am I to a line?
I don't know, what would the others be? Belonging.
You've said critical
friend,
belonging,
lens,
systemic, lens, early intervention,
voices of the child, like child's voice, all of that.
The prize is one of these plants. They don't belong. Hopefully, the videographer doesn't see you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Ben. Thank you. So we have been free social workers talking with Ben from Magic Breakfast about the importance of food and supporting young people systemically. So you can find us on Instagram at Matters Podcast, and also on LinkedIn, Social Matters. Do share this episode if you've enjoyed it. Do hit up Ben and the team at Magic Breakfast, and do enjoy this conversation. We hope you've enjoyed this conversation, and we'll see you soon. Take care.
Bye.